Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Steve with Real Progressives. And it was nice to have a day away from doing all the hoopla yesterday. It was nice to take a moment's break, kind of recharge the batteries, get back to square one, get back to neutral. But we're looking at the news today, and there's an article in the Wall Street Journal. It talks about how our debt to foreign nations is so out of control that it can bring about calamity for our nation. And it's from, an interview with the Pete Peterson Foundation, who Joe Firestone expertly destroyed a few weeks ago. And we're sitting here on the precipice, folks, of government agencies possibly being shut down, which is government spending and jobs for you and I. But we're also looking at the outcome of removing those regulations and destroying our environment, destroying our individual viability in this economy. And we're looking at an overarching decline in our standard of living in a way that cannot be, just brushed aside. The same people that are worrying about the debt that we're passing on to our children are the same people talking about cutting the very mechanism that allows for our children to have any kind of personal savings. So the very people that are pushing for debt and deficit reduction are literally condemning our children to massive, massive private debt. Now, I see a lot of people posting and thinking and considering the environment and how important it is that we fix the environment. And that's great. I mean, that is the right sensibilities. But these folks are not paying attention to the fact that the reason why they have to worry about the environment is because our government is being pushed by many of our own kindred within the progressive community to cut spending. And so because of that, we're in a terrible situation where our nation is not going to be able to take care of these very, very important issues. You're not going to see meaningful environmental legislation as long as there are people that are going around talking about how important it is to reduce the deficit or reduce the debt. You're not going to see any meaningful environmental legislation passed to stop us from having an cataclysmic event due to our own stupidity. We've got a situation where many of our own, in our own community, in our own progressive community, would rather go to these alternative media sources that talk about the Russian-China BRICS and the gold standard and how they're going to return to that. And they would rather read that garbage and fill their minds with stupidity than they would like to fight to make the necessary changes in our government to enable us to spend to fix those very problems. No joke. They are more willing to read this crap about the fear-mongering, about some bullshit gold standard across the world, than worry about how they can fix the problem here domestically. What does that say about our movement, folks? What does that say about our movement that our people would rather read fear porn from these worthless debt and deficit hawks than they would rather learn how to fix it in our own nation? What does that say about our movement? What does that say about so-called progressives that would literally kill our movement by trying to cut spending? What does that say about our movement? Folks, our movement is full of people that think we should be back on the gold standard. I kid you not. This is the level of idiocy that we have in our midst. I am not joking. You have no chance of significant environmental changes without a massive investment in our federal spending, without a massive push for spending. You cannot in any way, shape, or form make the changes that you want. People will share these environmental videos all over the place, and they will talk about the problem ad nauseum. Bravo. I'm glad you see that there's a problem. But then those same people will sit there and advocate going back to the gold standard. They will sit there and advocate cutting spending. I am literally not joking. This is what our movement is made of. And it is shameful. It is utterly shameful that they will take the time to read garbage fear porn from the likes of friggin' Alex Jones, and they will sit there and read this garbage rather than learn how to fix it here at home. I kid you not. The truth is far scarier than the conspiracies. The truth is far more frightening, far more lethal than the conspiracies. And yet, here we are. Now, folks, you and I am pretty sure we have almost universal agreement that the environment needs our help desperately, that we will not be living in a planet that we can actually survive and thrive in if we don't take decisive action. I think we all can agree to that. There might be a straggler here or there that's still a climate denier, but for the most part, we all agree that we could do massive investments in green energy and that we need to change to green energy like yesterday. We need renewables yesterday. We need to change yesterday. Not today, not tomorrow, but way back. And yet, here we are saying that we've got to cut spending, which is the only way that you're going to get investments in research and development for storage of green energy or for the mass production of green energy, because green energy is not going to be profitable in the same way it was for gasoline for these companies. It's not going to have the same profit margin, so it is not as lucrative for the capitalists. So the only way to do that is to spend from our federal government. The issuer of the currency, folks. We don't borrow our own currency from China. We don't borrow the currency that we create from any other country. We do not need to tax to spend because we create our own currency. When we spend money, we spend new money into the economy. When we tax, we delete money from the economy. Taxes do not fund spending. You've heard me say it before. I'll say it again. I see a lot of stuff about Republicans, and I don't know what you're saying because I can't quite see it on my screen because screen's small. But I will tell you this. I don't care about the Republicans because if we as progressives, we as the so-called left, if we but organized and if we but came together and came to an understanding that the debt and deficit hawks are right-wing fools and that we need to purge them from our midst. They are not progressives. There is no way to be a progressive and be fiscally conservative. You cannot be a progressive because none of our issues are solved by being a cutter. By being a fiscal cutter, there is no way to be a progressive. That is a line of conservative bullshit. Our only prayer is that our progressive community stop trying to play games. Stop trying to worry about debt and deficit fears. Stop being worthless about the gold standard. And literally get focused on making the changes. If we do it, guys, there's no one that can stand in our way. We are legion. There is many, many more of us than of them. And yet here we are sitting there reading these blogs and bullshit from these right-wing sources that talk about, oh my God, China and Russia may go to a gold standard. You sit there and you worry about all these bullshit things, but you don't focus on the fact that if we subsidized green energy with our federal government, hell, I don't care if we outright take it over. I don't care if we go full socialism on the freaking green energy. I don't care. If you believe our planet is dying, if you believe we're at an event horizon, and you believe there's no time to screw around, it only does this much good to go out there and protest pipelines. You've got to have an alternative, and the alternative must be sustainable green energy. And if you don't have the ability to deliver that sustainable green energy, because the capitalists that do it won't invest in it, so that means the only place that you can get the investment from is your federal government, then you need to push for that. Instead of talking about the fucking gold standard, instead of talking about reducing the debt and deficit, there is no debt that we cannot solve with keystrokes on a fucking computer. No joke. Like straight face, straight dope, no joke. And yet there we are sweating a fucking keystroke instead of saving our fucking planet. Think about this, folks. This is what the morons do when they talk about cutting debt and deficit. The morons, okay? This is what they do. Go to Occupy Democrats and take a peek at the kind of bullshit they celebrate. Like, Obama reduced the deficit. Yay, team. This is what we are dealing with in our movement, is people that think that that is good. When you see it, be ready to smite it. Be ready to crush it. It is no longer just an innocent fraud. It is now a lethal perpetuation of right-wing bullshit. You do not have the right to be that kind of stupid and get a pass anymore. You are a murderer by proxy. It is time exactly for an economic revolution. The economic revolution isn't just for nerdists that like economics. It's for people that want to give a fuck about the planet. When I see people sweating $20 trillion in worthless debt, that is savings accounts at the Fed for people that wanted to save US dollars at the Fed, when I see them worthlessly worry about that, it tells me that they're more worried about stupid than they are saving the fucking planet. Don't tell me you care about fracking. Don't tell me you care about pipelines. If you're trying to get us back to the gold standard, don't even tell me that. Don't even fucking lie. The two are incompatible. When you remove money from the fucking economy, you are a murderer by proxy, proxy. You are lethal and destroying any shot at green energy. You are lethal and literally killing our planet. That is the real debt to our children and our grandchildren that you can never pay back. That level of stupid is really, really lethal to our children. If you don't get this, then you are probably guilty of murder yourself. Even if it's by ignorance, you are literally guilty of killing our fucking planet, passing this lethal environmental debt on to our children, and you are literally the cause of environmental destruction. You are the cause of Flint, Michigan's water crisis. It is time to stop shooting ourselves in the forehead. It is time to place people and planet above profits and mean it. Really mean it. And I don't think you do. I don't think enough of you do. I think far too many of you are complacent and thinking our government, which is the creator of the US fucking dollar, you are still wrapped up in believing the creator of its dollar is in debt in its dollar, and that makes you pretty stupid. And that makes you, at this point in time, in the year 2017, there is no excuse for that level of stupidity any longer. And it is stupid. Tell me how the fuck you're getting Medicare for all, for example, by cutting spending. I got time. Let me wait for you. Tell me about this reducing spending while we get our Medicare for all. I'm waiting. Nothing, right? I'm waiting for you to tell me how a company that bases its entire expenditures on an ROI, return on investment, of 24 months, how they are going to, in fact, invest in green energy without federal subsidies by you cutting spending. I'm waiting. I got time. The bottom line, every single person that talks about reducing the debt, reducing deficit, is a murderer by proxy. A lethal idiot. A lethal idiot. And our planet cannot sustain that level of idiocy. It cannot. It's time to rise up and demand that they stop letting our planet die and spend right now. Spend right now. That's it, folks. I don't know what else to tell you. You got the right sensibilities. You know we need green energy. The missing piece in your game is understanding economics. That's it. You get the economics right, then all of a sudden the environment comes along with it. You keep talking gold standard bullshit, you keep waxing on about debt and deficits, you kill the planet by idiocy. That's it. Don't tell me you care about the environment while you sit there and tell me that you're going to cut the fucking deficit. Don't tell me that you care about people dying from a lack of health care if you worry about the fucking debt. You've been told. Now do your homework. It is no longer fun and games time. People are dying. And if you're preaching debt and deficits and you're preaching reduction, you are the killer. I'm not here to be your best friend, folks. For those of you who get this, I'm glad. Help me spread the word. For those of you who don't get it, I would rather you hate me. I would rather you hate my fucking guts and understand what's going on than have you like me for a lie. I would rather tell you the truth in a way that hurts your feelings so fucking bad that you go home and cry than have you sit there in any way, shape, or form and like me while I sit there and tell you sweet nothings that make you feel better. I don't care. I'm here to save my kids' planet. I'm here to fight for them. I hope you'll join me. With that, I'm Steve Grumbine. Have a great day.